Dr. Mustafa Barghouti is joining us live. He is the member of Palestinian Legislative Council and also the former Information Minister. Dr. Barghouti, the United Nations Human Rights Office has said that Israel's siege of Gaza and the evacuation order there could amount to an international crime. How do you see the current humanitarian crisis that Gazans are facing?
Gazans, unfortunately, are subjected to a war crime through this terrible siege on their life. They are deprived of water, deprived of food, deprived of electricity, and deprived of communication and internet, and they are deprived of medicine and medication. This would mean the death of so many people, because it could mean that many Palestinians who are now in Gaza would not have medical treatment. Children in incubators could die at any moment because there is no electricity. Patients who are in need for kidney dialysis, including 130 children, could die at any moment because they have no access to kidney dialysis. We could also see epidemics in Gaza because of water, of absence of drinking water, suitable drinking water, and because of the pollution of what exists. What we can see in Gaza is also another kind of infections and epidemics because of the suspension of all vaccination programs and because of the destruction of sanitary facilities and sewage systems by Israeli airstrikes. It's a very grave situation. It's a very dangerous one. But in addition to the crime of collective punishment, there is another crime taking place, and that is the genocide through the Israeli airstrikes, which have committed so far more than 70 massacres, taking the life of no less than 1,200 innocent children, as well as no more less than 4,000 other Palestinians. And it is quite possible that there are thousands of people who are still below the rubble that nobody can remove because of Israeli airstrikes.
Okay. Dr. Barghouti, the WHO, that is the World Health Organization, warns that water, electricity and fuel supplies in Gaza will last for perhaps another 24 hours. The Rafah border hasn't really opened. With the clock ticking, what is really the way out?
The only way out is for the United States, which is the only country that seems to have real leverage over Israel, is to force Israel to immediately open a passage for humanitarian support so that water, electricity, food, and medicine can come to Gaza. This is in the hands of Mr. Biden and Mr. Blinken. But the Western other governments are also responsible. They are siding by Israel completely, many of them, and they are supporting Israel unconditionally. And they have done nothing, no serious pressure on Israel to initiate this humanitarian corridor. The Israeli attacks on Gaza at the moment and their siege on Gaza is not a siege on Hamas, it's a siege on the Palestinian population. And Israel is trying to dehumanize all Palestinians, creating an atmosphere of hate to Palestinians. And that results, of course, in terrible crimes like the one that happened in Chicago, when an old man stabbed a Palestinian child, 6 years old, to death.
President Biden will be in Tel Aviv tomorrow and may fly to Amman to meet Jordan's King Abdullah. He may also meet Egyptian president and also the Palestinian president. What expectations do you have from his visit?
So far, he's trying to advocate Israeli demands only. And one of the most dangerous demands is that Egypt would open its borders and allow Palestinians in Gaza to flee to Egypt. That would mean ethnic cleansing of the Gaza Strip. If that takes place, it would be the worst third crime ever. And if that happens, Israel will never allow Palestinians from Gaza to come back. And this would be another catastrophe for the Palestinian people, even 3 times as large as the first Nakba, the first catastrophe took place when Israel ethnically cleansed more than 900,000 Palestinians in 1948. This crime should not be allowed, and Mr. Biden should be stopped here if he tries to ask countries like Egypt and Jordan to accept Palestinian refugees instead of forcing Israel to open a safe passage so that water and food and supplies can get to Gaza. He also should demand that Israel stops the airstrikes. How many Palestinians they need to kill before they say that they can stop their airstrikes? Enough is enough.
You're saying enough is enough. Now, coming to the question of United States, it continues to offer military support to Israel, even as it warns Netanyahu of the consequences of occupying Gaza and continues the focus on getting aid into Gaza. Would you say that these are mixed signals?
Yes, mixed signals, and the most important signal is that the United States is telling that it is unconditionally supporting Israel, including a land invasion of Israel of Gaza, a ground invasion of Gaza, and they are even saying that they will send 2,000 American troops to participate in that invasion, which is amazing. I mean, the United States should not be participating in such a war crime. And the most important thing here is that Netanyahu is trying to fulfill his plan. His plan is clear. Attacking Gaza viciously, killing as many Palestinians as he can, forcing an eviction and ethnic cleansing of all Palestinians in Gaza, and then annexing Gaza Strip. That's the nature of the map he carried in the United Nations, where he showed that Israel should include the annexation of all the occupied West Bank, the annexation of all the occupied Gaza Strip, as well as Jerusalem and the Syrian Golan Heights. If that happens, this would mean the end of international law. It would send a very negative message to everybody in the world that we do not live now in a world where international law has existence. It would mean that what we are subjected to is jungle law, where anybody with power can do whatever they like. But more important, the United States here is providing a very clear and shiny example of double standard. In the case of Ukraine, they are sending artillery, jet fighters, $224 billion of military and aid equipment, and to support what they say a fight of Ukraine against occupation. In our case, they are sending jet fighters and aircraft carriers and weapons to the occupier. Where is the logic here?
All right, Dr. Mustafa, really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for speaking to NDTV.